Hey everyone, it's Joy here. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing Spellbinders club kits for January 2024. I created 4 cards using the Glimmer hot foil, the Betterpress, the Stencil, and the 3D embossing folder kit of the month. Let's start with the Betterpress. I just think this is so pretty. I love the detail that the Betterpress gives. So I'm going to start by getting my plate in place on the magnet portion of the Betterpress base here. And then on the top there is a grid line to measure that's like A2 size card. And so I'm going to tape this down in place. This is special cardstock for Betterpress. This is the cotton card panels in Porcelain. I'm going to use the black ink to ink up my image. So this is a metal plate, which is obviously why it sticks to the magnet. I'm going to ink this up good, and then you're going to turn the top plate over. It's going to attach to the 4 magnets that are on each of the corners. Then you'll run this through your die cut machine without any other plates or bases. I just run it through one time, and what it does is smushes down that top layer and stamps your image. I have not ever used alcohol ink markers on the cotton cardstock, and I will say it did pretty well. It doesn't blend like it would on a cardstock like a Nina or a Hammermill, but I still think it turned out pretty nice. I'm using R35, 37, and 39 for the red here. And I'm just blending it out like I normally would, but I still think, again, it turned out really nice. And I love the red, this pop of red against the white background. So I'm going to finish with my lightest color here, blending out the tips of those flowers. Let's do this other one. So I'm doing the darker at the base of the petals, which is the R39. Then I'm coming in with the middle color, which is the R37, and going back over the darker color and blending up further. And then the R35, of course, is the lighter. And then I can blend that down. I did go back in and add the R39 again, just because it blended it out quite a bit. I didn't notice any bleeding, but I'm also really careful to not oversaturate my cardstock. I used a little bit of yellow and a little bit of gray for the centers. And then I've got the green here for my leaf. I was really kind of debating if I wanted to leave this with just a white background, but I decided to do a little bit of splattering. I'm just using the Distress ink, not the oxides, because the regular Distress ink will give you a brighter splatter, where the Distress oxides, which I love, kind of gives you a chalky finish. So I added some water and then just splattered that on the background. And then I also decided to use Lawn Fawn's Liquid Stardust, which would give a little bit of a fun shimmer. I'm going to put that on the background as well. I do want to dry this just a little bit because I didn't want the 2 different kinds of splatters mixing together. I wanted them to be each their own little splatters, if that makes sense. Now this is a longer video because I am doing 4 cards, but definitely stay till the end because all the cards turned out really nice. Okay, so that is splattered. I'm gonna let that dry for just a minute. I will be using a sentiment that I already had in my stash. This is from Tailored Expressions. I just they have, their sentiments are a kind of a stamp set that has a ton of sentiments. My brain couldn't think. And then coordinating dies. And so I have that in my stash. It is stamped and heat embossed gold embossing powder. And it says "Holding You in My Prayers," which I thought this is a really nice card for that. Then I'm going to add it to a white A2 size card base, which the card panel is, I trimmed down slightly smaller than the card base. So let's take a look at this up close. I like that little sparkle. I love the splatters, and that image is just beautiful. Okay, this is the stencil of the month. This is brand new. I think this came out in December of 2023. This is a layering stencil. I am going to use some Pink Fresh Studio inks. I'm going to use some pinks. I will have all of the inks listed in my description. And I'm going to start in the center, and I will ink blend darker in the center of my petals and then lighter as it goes out to the tips of my petals. When I'm ink blending, I do really like to add some dimension, some interest by shading some areas darker and others lighter. I'm deciding which color green I want to use for the stems here. So I'm going to ink blend those. This is the first stencil, and they are numbered. That's not even a word. Numbered. I think there's 5 stencils. There could be 6, but I think there's 5. Here's number 2. I'm also using Waffle Flowers Grip Mat, which is really fantastic. Like, these stencils do not slide. Again, starting in the center, I'm using a different color of pink, a little bit of a darker color of pink. And I just think this flower is so pretty. That turned out so, so pretty. Okay, let's go for our third stencil. This is the inside pieces of the petals. I'm going to go heavy-handed on this because obviously I want these to stand out. I think this is turning out so, so lovely. All right, this has the center of the flower and some of the leaves. So there's 5 stencils because this is the 4th one. So I want to do the green. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with the green. I probably should have used a smaller brush here, but I was still able for the most part to have some darker and lighter areas when I was stenciling these really pretty leaves. And you could use 2 different green colors. I did not. I used the same green, but I think using 2 different greens would be great. Or you could go lighter with one of the leaf stencils and then darker of the same color, like a little more heavy-handed for the second stencil. I'll do some yellow for that center of that flower, and then we can bring in the final stencil. And this lines up so nice. Everything, there's little register marks on the corners to fit an A2 size card. So that's really nice. But even the images, you can see where the next stencil lines up to the previous stencil. So let's finish ink blending this last guy. I also decided to add some foiling to this card. I just thought it would be extra fun. This is not from the Glimmer kit this month. I will show you that one here in just a little bit. Look at how pretty that is. So I have my Glimmer hot foil machine on. It's heating up. I am using, I don't remember the name of this one, but I'll have it listed and linked below for you guys. I'll have all the supplies there. But I'm going to create a hinge with this tape. I will just be foiling on part of the card. It's going to cover up some of the leaves and some of the flower petals, and I'm going to use Aurafoil. Big surprise. It's my favorite. It's my favorite gold foil. It just has a fun kind of iridescent shimmery look to it. Okay, so then I can place this down onto my Glimmer machine here. It's going to heat up. Once it's hot, I'm going to push the little button. It'll blink. When it's done blinking, it blinks for about a minute, I will put my plates and shim on top, run that through my die cut machine, again with no plates from your die cut machine, just the base plate from the Glimmer hot foil system. And then I'm going to pull this up, and then we have this nice beautiful foil. I love this so much. I think it's so, so pretty. I will trim this down slightly smaller than an A2 size card base. And then I remembered I wanted to stencil the sentiment. 2 of the stencils have different sentiments, and I'm using the Hello Lovely. And then going back in with that medium pink color to stencil the sentiment. I think that's so pretty. I want to finish this off with some Studio Katya's Gold Fever Confetti. And these are my favorite because they have a gold iridescence just like that Aurafoil. Okay, let's go to our Glimmer hot foil kit. There is 2 sentiments. I'm going to foil both of them. And then I had already foiled the image onto regular cardstock, and then I decided to change my route for this card. I am going to foil onto some vellum. And I did two kinds of vellum. I did this colored vellum from Lawn Fawn. I actually ended up not using this, but I didn't record the other vellum. So I'm going to show you how I did this. I'm going to tape this in place like I normally do. This is a 36-pound vellum. The one that I ended up using from Tailored Expressions, I think is like a 20-pound. I'm using Aura foil. So something I'm going to do here is I am heating up my plate longer. So once it's hot and ready and you push your button to start your 1-minute timer, I'm going to let that sit. Once the 1-minute timer is up, I'm going to pull it out of the docking station, shove it right back in, and when it's ready, press that button again. So it's going to heat up for 2 minutes. I did add a thick paper shim in between my other two plates, and I'm running it through. So you'll have to kind of play with it because, you know, everyone's things are different. And then when I pull it off, I knew I had enough pressure. There was one little spot that wasn't the best, and then some other spots had some over foiling, so I just wiped that off with my hand. But the one little spot was on the stem, and I tried this multiple times and it just wouldn't foil the best on the stem. So I decided I will cover that up in somehow on my card because I still wanted to use it. So here is the clear regular vellum. I have it flipped over and I'm using some Copic markers, some alcohol ink markers, and coloring on the back. I'm not doing any crazy coloring. The leaves are just one shade of green. And you want to color on the back because it looks better when you flip it over and see it from the front. So here is a darker orange for the center of the flower, and then I will use a medium kind of orange. Kind of ink blend. It doesn't blend great, but I did like the effect that it had when I flipped it over. So it is blending into, it is pulling up some of that darker ink from the center and bringing it up onto the petals further. I have 3 colors of Copic markers. I only ended up using 2, but that's really, really soft and pretty. I love how that turned out. A little bit of yellow in the center, but you didn't even notice it. Okay, I've got some die cut circles from, die circles from Spellbinders. I'm going to place on this lemon chiffon cardstock from Simon Says Stamp. I'm cutting out the circle. I want to have my flower behind it. I'm using the 3D embossing folder that we haven't seen yet. I have that card next for the front of the card. And I'm also going to layer it on another piece of that lemon chiffon. I loved the way the vellum looked against that yellow cardstock. I also laid it on top of white cardstock, but something about the yellow just was really, really pretty. So I'm going to adhere those together, make a sandwich with the vellum in the center. And then I decided to make a frame to go around the circle. So I took 2 of those circle dies, one smaller than the other, taping that in place, and I'm die cutting that from gold mirror cardstock, and I will do that twice. I do want the frame to be just a tad bit thick, so that's why I opted to go that route. Okay, let's glue those together and then we can pop that in place. But as you can see, it finishes off that circle nicely. It gives it a little something extra. So I'm going to use one of those foiled sentiments that we did at the beginning of this card. It said there's one that says for you and one that says thanks. So where I'm putting the sentiment, that's where the foiling wasn't the best on the stem of that flower, but now you can't even notice it. So let's finish off with a few of those Gold Fever confetti from, oh my gosh, my brain, Studio Katya. Sorry about that. I'm going to put a few of those in place, and I can adhere those down with some liquid glue. I'm going to be careful not to do too much liquid glue because you'll be able to see it squished out on the vellum. Now let's take a look at this up close. Isn't that so pretty? The vellum is so soft, and I love the coloring behind it, and the foil on top is gorgeous. Okay, final card. I am using an A2 size piece of white cardstock. I am using Pink and Main's Mask It Square stencil, and I'm turning it to create a diamond. I'm using 3 colors of Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks in Spring, Sprout, and Aspen, and I will overlap them in the center. I thought it would be fun to create, well, to kind of make the center of the card the highlight when we use the 3D embossing folder on it, so you get to see the images in color and in white. So that was just kind of my idea. I lined up that top one. I'm going to do the bottom. The last color is Aspen. I think that middle color was Spring, and this top one was Sprout, I believe. And now we're going to do Aspen. Again, I'm using the Waffle Flower Grip Mat, which just holds these stencils down so nice. And as you notice, I'm ink blending darker on the outside and lighter on the inside. Again, just kind of giving it a little more interesting look with your stenciling. Okay, now that that's done, we can put this in our 3D embossing folder for the month of January. And the sandwich you make is your base plate, and then the folder, and then I think it's the D plate, but it's gray, but I think it's the D plate, but don't hold me to that. And then you run that through. I am using some die cuts from Spellbinders Autumn Wonder, and I'm going to ink blend those with Lemonade, Peachy, and Cheeky inks from Simon Says Stamp. I thought these colors would be fun against that green. Just kind of a bright and cheerful card. I'm using the smaller blender brushes for this. I'm kind of going darker in the center, a little bit lighter on the outside edges. And I want 3 of these. For some reason, odd numbers are a bit more pleasing to the eye when you're making a card or even decorating or whatever. Okay, this is our last one. This is the Peachy ink. I think it's so, so pretty. Then I'm using the sentiment, the foiled sentiment from the Glimmer Hot Foil Kit that says thanks. Let's adhere these down with a little bit of liquid glue right on that center diamond. And I'm leaving a space open when I'm adhering my leaves, so that way the sentiment can be in the center, but it's kind of surrounded by all of the leaves. Let's add this third one here. And as you can see, I'm only adding liquid glue at the base of the stems. This is just going to give some natural dimension because the whole image is not glued down flat. And then you don't have to add foam tape behind some of these images. Let's pop that sentiment right in the center. Then I will adhere this to an A2 size white card base. And of course, we're going to finish it off with some Gold Fever confetti here. I think that might be my theme for all of these cards. Well, except for that first one didn't have any, did it? That had splatter. Okay, let's just get these in place. I kind of like where they're sitting. And then I'm going to add my liquid glue. And then we can take a look at this up close. That 3D embossing folder is so pretty, and I love seeing it in white and in color. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by and watching. I hope that you feel inspired by this video, and I hope that you are enjoying the Spellbinders Club Kits. Thank you so much again, and I will be back soon with another video. Bye.